We have to tackle some Blazers headlines first because,
there.
there was big news that broke Monday night. This was no less than 5 minutes after we got off the air on Primetime. It was like you get the Shams bomb coming through or whatever.
And then I was like, oh, great, we don't have a show tomorrow.
No show tomorrow. So now it's like we're about 48 hours behind on the news, roughly. But
circle back, Tarantino it, back to front.
It bears discussing, though, because a significant move for the Blazers. They finally move off of Anfernee Simons.
Yeah.
The writing was on the wall there. He was getting towards the end of his contract. There had even been some rumblings they might sign him to an extension, but he was always a piece that I think a lot of people thought you could move to try to do some different things with your roster.
Sure.
And now they have. So they've sent him off to Boston with 2 second-round picks, and in return, they get Jrue Holiday, who 3-and-D vet, 35, 3 years left, $110 million left on his contract.
Nothing says rebuilding team like a 35-year-old player coming off his worst season
with a 9-figure salary,
with $100 million in salary over the next 3 years. I mean, I know this was like all the shows were hotly debating this today, and can I just say for the record, and I may be the only one that thinks this, and let me also qualify this, is I am not a diehard like NBA scribe, but I truly look at this and I just am like, whatever. Look, Anfernee Simons doesn't move the needle. You've never won with Anfernee Simons. You weren't going to win with Anfernee Simons.
Good scorer, good at getting his own bucket.
20-point scores.
It hadn't amounted to anything for you, and there's a lot of guys who can do that for you.
There's so many guys in the NBA that can shoot the ball a little bit and can give you 20 a night, and that provide nothing else, right? Not a true point guard, doesn't play defense. We saw him last year try to be the focal point of the offense. He can't carry an offense by himself. He needs to be the 5th best player on a team. 4th, 5th best player, maybe in a Peyton Pritchard role. Great. But last year, didn't have a good year. Came down, you either had to extend him, which you probably weren't going to do. I don't know why you would, or you deal him. And I think you found out exactly what he was worth. And that is a 35-year-old guard coming off an injury-plagued season that is a shell of his former self, that doesn't want to be here, by the way, according to reports. And this is what you got. So this is why I say, like, this is the equivalent, like when the 49ers this offseason lost all these guys that were name players. And everyone was like, oh.
Deebo Samuel gone.
And you're like, he's not a factor.
Yeah.
Anfernee Simons was not a factor for you last year. He wasn't a factor. Like, what is having him on the team ever done for you? Other than we got to hear for like almost a decade, Anfernee Simons is going to pop. Anfernee Simons is going to pop. You should have dealt him 4 years ago when like there was like this intrigue about him. But you know what he is? He's a worse version of CJ McCollum. We know what CJ was worth. He's a nice player. He can play in the NBA. Doesn't do anything for you other than...
He's not necessarily moving the needle as far as making you better or getting you closer to a playoff appearance, to a playoff series win.
He takes up a spot of a young player that you still hope maybe turns into something. And so you send him out. I could give a two flying what's about the 2nd round picks. We talked about this, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, they're just currency.
I don't care. Yeah, go. So what did you get back in return? You got Jrue Holiday. Unless Jrue Holiday is just a stable pony, a la Crash Davis for like Nikola Luge, like...
I don't think he's at that point of his career where he's expecting that.
Well, and that's the report, is he's not happy, and I don't blame him.
So I saw that report refuted today. If you didn't see it yesterday, it came out that Holiday and his camp were, quote, pissed about being sent to the Blazers, that he knew because of the second apron and because of the Tatum injury that he could be a cap casualty, as well as Kristaps Porzingis, and both of them were. Yeah. But he thought, wait a second, I'm supposed to be going to a team who can win right now? Yeah. And I looked at that move and thought, that'd be a great move if the Blazers thought they had a chance of competing or contending right now.
It totally makes sense. And whether that's a true report or not, I don't know. The guy that reported, by the way, is like a 30-year writer for like the Boston Globe.
Right. Very reputable. So there's something else today. I think his camp is now pushing back, saying we never said that. But
who knows, right? But you're telling me that a 35-year-old player coming off his worst season, probably of his career, wants to go from winning a title in Milwaukee, winning a title in Boston, to now coming here and... Dude, essentially, you're being brought in to mentor either Scoot or to mentor whatever big point guard that you draft in this year's draft. You're telling me at 35 years old, that's how you want to finish out your career?
Can't
be. There's just no way.
Yeah. And that's why I've been like surprised that Jeremy Grant has been around as long as he's been. Like, I keep thinking he's going to ask for out, because it seems like for players in that stage of their career, it doesn't seem like the right spot right now. We talked a while back about Chris Paul and the possibility of him. Like there's certain points or stages of guys' careers that it makes sense for them to be in Portland, and for Holiday, that seems like a disconnect.
Yeah, and then I've also heard like, oh, maybe Holiday in 2 years. So you're telling me that in 2 years he's an expiring deal. He'll make $37 million and going into that third year. He'll be 37 going on 38 years old.
What are you getting back then?
What are you getting back other than just, so we're saying that in a couple years, that expiring deal is going to be worth so much. So I just think you traded to me someone that doesn't move the needle, that was never going to move the needle, for someone that moved the needle 3 or 4 years ago, that no longer moves the needle and still plays the position of the guy that you're hoping one day can move the needle. The only thing that makes sense is if you're trying to move Holiday to another contender for another move down the road.
Yeah, that's possible.
Or just maybe this is simply the case of Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin feel like they need to win and they need to win now. And maybe they think that Jrue Holiday gets you to the play-in. Because I guess you can make the case if Holiday's healthy and has a bounce back year, although you know me, I hate betting on aging players coming off injury-plagued season. I don't know if you know how the human body works, but it usually doesn't start getting magically better at the age of 35.
No.
But in
Not
theory,
unless you're on that LeBron blood spinning routine.
I mean, in theory, if Holiday has a healthy year and he's engaged, he makes you better than Anfernee Simons
For
did.
sure. And then if you think about guys like him, Holiday, Kamara, and Klingon, you're starting to build a pretty deep defensive roster.
And
And
he's not the defensive player that he was.
No, definitely not.
But it's an improvement. And so from that standpoint, if you want to tell me that you went from being a 30, what did they win? 30?
I think we decided 36 games.
36? Okay. So you Jrue Holiday, you win 30. Now, I just think this is to me why it's not a huge deal. It's a big deal, and then Anfernee Simons is finally gone. But again, you moved out a never was for something, I don't want to call him a has-been, but he's not a player that moves the needle. If you want, Boston looked at it and was like, yeah, no, like we're not winning a title this year, so we're not paying your money, out of here. And what you got for him was a guy in Anfernee Simons that Boston probably doesn't really want. He's just a placeholder.
Because he's an expiring.
Because an expiring deal. That's Jrue Holiday. So if you think that Jrue Holiday is coming in here to make Portland significantly better, he's not. So it's trading one kind of mid-level player for an older but better, slightly mid player. And to me, that doesn't move my needle either way. So it's a big news that Anfernee Simons is gone. But if we're actually talking about the impact of it, I give it 2 thumbs. Whatever.
It's actually pretty neat.
To me, this also screams of like, this is part 1. And I think that people rush to judge and go, oh, Portland got fleeced or Boston got fleeced. And you haven't seen the entirety of what's going to happen here. So if Jrue Holiday, like if you look at it in a vacuum and 10 years from now, nothing happens, right? Like the Blazers keep Jrue Holiday, he plays out the rest of his contract, he retires, whatever. Then yeah, it might not be a great trade and it's dumb. But if that trade sets up the next Jrue Holiday trade where you're trading him somewhere else and you get younger in return, you get a better player.
I've heard that. And look, I'm not bashing this trade. I'm really not.
Fair.
Especially if it's part of a bigger means to an end.
I mean, Anfernee Simons was not in the future. Like here, he just wasn't. And if they would have extended him. So I'm not trying to sit here and like slaughter this. I'm just saying Jrue Holiday is a better player than Anfernee Simons. He has been a better player. Mm-hmm. He's older, but
he was just an Olympian.
He's just an Olympian. Jrue Holiday is a really good player. I just wish we had him 3 years ago. Sure. And I wish that you had Jrue Holiday is the perfect piece for a team that is close and getting over the hump. He proved it in Milwaukee. Yep. He proved it in Boston. What hump are you getting over in Portland? So it's not even Jrue Holiday. For where this franchise is, that's why I said he's a stable pony. If he's being brought in to mentor Scoot, I guess, but does he want to do that? But I have heard so many times from the Blazers that it's like, well, it'll be a larger piece. We heard it when they moved CJ. We heard it when they signed Jeremy Grant. I get tired of hearing, well, we'll see what we're doing down the road. And if they do, great. But you can't keep dangling that carrot in front of me and then expect me to get excited about what may or may not happen when the track record here is that it doesn't happen. So all I can go on is Jrue Holiday is a Portland Trailblazer, and you are slightly, and I mean slightly better, and that makes you no better in the West. A game or two here or there, I don't
It does
know.
not change your trajectory as far as the next
Not
season's
for me in
concerned.
any sort of way. But also, I'm not naive enough to think that Anfernee Simons was going to bring you some sort of giant haul.
Or that suddenly next year was going to be the year for him or
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
So, like, if you thought Anfernee Simons was going to bring you like this great asset that was going to make you better, then I got waterfront to sell you in Nebraska. Like so from that standpoint, that's why I said I don't hate the trade. You took someone that wasn't going to be a part of your future, and you brought in someone that may be part of your future for the next couple of years, and I don't know, maybe has a bounce back year, but I just think we're making it a bigger deal on the court than it is. It's a bigger deal from a headline standpoint than it actually is, in my opinion, in wins and losses or an impact on how it. There's no one that's going to look at this and be like, oh, look out for Portland now.
Exactly right.
And if he was, then he would still be in Boston.
It feels like both teams doing something that they think serves them a little better than what they had. And for Boston, certainly financially motivated. And Portland will wait and see, because it very well could be part of something else, but we've yet to see them be that type of team that turns and wheels and deals and deals and deals and deals again. So if it happens, great. If not, welcome aboard, Jrue Holiday.
Come on board. Hopefully you don't hate it here.